You say Barry Goldwater. To me, this gets right back to something I was talking about a few minutes ago, which was that the seminal issue in America in the 1950s and 60s was civil rights. And there was something terribly wrong in our society, that there was rampant, legally sanctioned discrimination and segregation. And the conservatives of that era were not opposed to it, or they would say this is not right, but it's a matter of states' rights, and states' rights comes first, and therefore there's nothing that the federal government can do to change that. Of course, I was quite, as I said, I was a teenager then, but I and I think others who were in this same little group that I'm, or milieu that I'm part of, were involved in the civil rights movement, and so we were really quite different from conservatives, where we became neocons, as I said, a label that was put on us because of foreign policy issues, mostly in the late 60s and 70s, because we were strong anti-communists. And then I think gradually there was a growing closer of neocons and conservatives. Two things I can think of. One is, I think most conservatives, in hindsight, came to regret their movement's stance on civil rights and to realize that that was a mistake. And on the other hand, on our side, we moved primarily in the embrace of Ronald Reagan. We supported Reagan and became great Reagan enthusiasts because he was such a tough guy in the Cold War, which was what was really dear to our hearts. But because we liked him so much, we were very influenced by him to take a more conservative position on domestic issues than we had done up until then.
And in fact, in your article in Foreign Policy, you write that we, the neocons, got lucky with Reagan. He took the path we wanted and the policies succeeded brilliantly. He left office highly popular. Bush is a different story. He too took the path we wanted, but the policies are achieving uncertain success. His popularity has plummeted. It would be pig-headed not to reflect and rethink. Bradford, Pennsylvania, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
I have a few opinions. They are questions, and I want you to think about them. I never thought we should have gone into Iraq. I realized the program for the weapons with the Weekly Standard and Krauthammer, and for years I thought about that. But here was a country that was in the dumps. There were 9 smokestacks in the whole country. We had all our leaders. Can you imagine congressmen not even realizing that this country was shot? We send our kids in there. Probably the best solution we'll wind up with, we'll have another Palestine. We'll probably be protecting the Sunnis for the next 100 years.
Well, you know, you say the country was shot. It was certainly suffering economically, but that doesn't mean it wasn't dangerous. When I look back, I still think the Soviet Union was terribly dangerous. It actually had a bigger military machine than we had, not as modern and as efficient, but a bigger military machine, more weapons, more firepower of every kind, more nukes, what have you. After Gorbachev and after the Soviet Union fell apart, we learned that it was even in much worse economic condition than we had imagined before, that it was in most ways a terribly poor country, but it did have this huge military machine. We see the same thing today. North Korea has nothing. There's nothing in that country except it's got nuclear bombs. So to say that Iraq was poor and its economy was a wreck may be true, but it doesn't mean it could not have been dangerous.
Last call for Josh Muravchik comes from Anchorage. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. I have some grave concerns about how far you've developed a strategy. You say you want to protect the United States at risk, but starting a war in the Persian Gulf can easily quadruple the price of oil, because if you start a war there. The Iranians have Silkworm surface-to-ship missiles that can stop 25% of the world's oil production in a heartbeat and strand all of our soldiers in Iraq and subject them to direct action. But moreover, I'm concerned about your conflicting position that you want to promote democracy, but the attack against Iran, which would necessarily be a perpetual state of war, because you have no end game to make them our friends again, and that will do nothing but harden nationalist Islamists against any Western sense of civil society. So your apparent goals are in direct conflict with your methods, and your methods will create the direct opposite effect of what you say you propose to promote. So,
thank you, caller.
Well, I think that's a fair question, but I think it's just too oversimplified. I think that if the Iranian regime becomes a nuclear weapons power, that it will give tremendous new force and vitality to the global jihad movement in terms of many more young people willing to become terrorists, to fight for jihad, and in terms of Islamists taking over other countries in the region, in addition to the ones where they're already in power. This jihad movement has not flourished, in my judgment, primarily on the basis of grievances or attacks by us. Rather, it has flourished from its own sense of success and its own sense of destiny. They say, we defeated one superpower, meaning the defeat of the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and we can defeat the other. That's what Ahmadinejad says, and the other Islamists. Then they feel that they drove the United States out of Lebanon in 1983. They drove Israel out of Lebanon. They drove Israel out of Gaza. Now they believe, defeating the United States in Iraq. And it's, I think, less from grievances than from the sense that they are the wave of the future. They're part of a worldwide movement that has the infidels on the run, that they are gaining support. And I think that if Iran gets nuclear weapons, that will push that process forward with tremendous new momentum and with a terribly damaging effect.
This is the article. It's in Foreign Policy. It's How to Save the Neocons. It's by our guest, Josh Muravchik. This article is hyperlinked to the C-SPAN website. You can go to the Washington Journal place on the C-SPAN website, and you will find it there. Josh Muravchik, thanks for being with us.
Peter, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on.